Hello, YouTube. It's me, Captain Char, with another reaction. My camera had somehow moved on its own. Sucky. Anyways, we're going to be reacting to the Fat Electrician's America's Unhinged Nuclear Testing, aka Operation Plumbob. I've heard a few things about this. Might be one of the tests I've heard of. I've looked up a few things. I play a lot of Fallout, so let's just hop into this and see what we got. All right.
Finally got around to doing that video on that time America launched a man recovery in outer space with a nuclear
Oh,
bomb.
I want to see that one.
That's actually the lesser of two interesting parts of this story because America
Wait, is this it?
dropped a nuclear bomb on top of 6 people to prove that nukes were safe. Today we're talking about Operation Plumbob. The professional way to explain it would be to say that it is a bunch of nuclear testing that was carried out by the United States government in the late 1950s in the deserts of Nevada. However,
I wonder if he's gonna cover the fact that well, actually, I do know that Vegas, I think it was, giving it its proximity, I think it was Vegas, or had some high rises that had special rooms for optimal viewing of these tests. So you can sit up there with like binoculars or something. I don't know. The 50s was a wild time if you think about it.
in reality, it is more akin to the United States government dicking off with nuclear warheads in the desert than a bunch of rednecks on 4th of July with fireworks.
We'll shoot fireballs at.
But first, the sponsor.
Oh, Nicholas.
Yeah. Is this my Father's Day present?
Well, I do have a surprise for you.
What's that?
Our credit cards are maxed out. I'm gonna need you to fix it. I'd like to go shopping.
All right.
This video is brought to you by Henson's Shaving. Henson's is a family-owned machine shop that makes parts for the aerospace industry. There's literally
Interesting.
parts on the Mars rover that these guys made, and one day they woke up and they're like, "Hey, we're just gonna make the most precise safety razor on the market." And this is it. This is
Okay, that's kind of okay. Like, that is a wild thing to consider for a company like this. If they're making parts for the aerospace, like, yeah, why not make this branch into the civilian market and just have that cash inflow? But you guarantee if it's going to be built really well, if it can survive fucking, sorry for the F-bomb drop again, that's just in my nature. If they can build parts for to survive on another planet, it should be good enough to hold up to your beard and whatnot.
It comes in aluminum or titanium. If you want to pay extra, it comes with a little stand. And then they also sell the razor blades, so you have a one-stop shop. Not because their razor blades are proprietary, because this thing will take any shaving razor blade on the market. You don't have to buy their proprietary cartridge. You don't have to sign up for their monthly delivery thing. No, you buy this one time and
That's neat.
put any 5-cent razor in it and shave for the rest of your life. So the product itself is fantastic, but more importantly, the company is awesome, because every time a YouTuber does an ad like this, they
I just noticed his tank top.
full of talking points, what to say, what not to say, and so on. Now, I'm not supposed to disclose this, but the brief that I got for Henson's basically said there is no script, do whatever you want, we trust you. Also, in the first paragraph, they said this, quote, "If for whatever reason you don't get a good shave with our product, please let us know. If we can't help you, then don't endorse us. We think we've made one of the very best razors in the world. If you disagree, we'd rather not ask you for a non-genuine endorsement." So the razor's great, and this is the type of company.
Okay, non-genuine endorsement. Now, I can say that there are people who have signed up for certain stuff just to get the products for free and say it was good even if it was crap, and then turn around and resell said product. I don't know. I'm not naming who. I just know people have done this with certain services and whatnot. And yeah.
That you actually want to give your money to. I'm going to have a link for them down below. Let's get back to the video. All right, Operation Plumbob takes place in 1957. There was a total of 29 nuclear explosions, and they were testing all kinds of different stuff. They had biomedical testing going on with pigs, how radiation affected them and at what distance. Then they were covering the pigs with blankets.
What?
Materials blocked radiation, what materials didn't. They also...
The pigs were dead, right? Like, I can only hope
conducted experiments on 18,000 U.S. service members, basically having them dig a trench off in the distance and hide in it while they detonated a nuclear warhead to see how they held up. And then they had different buildings and structures built out of different materials, trying to see which building materials blocked radiation the best and which ones blocked them the worst. Now, when this started, all the bombs that were being detonated off the top of a tower or from a high-altitude weather balloon. They were just detonating nuclear warheads into the open atmosphere. What could...
I mean, valid for... Okay, if the world's gonna have these weapons... Like, the state's logic here, I could guess, is... Sorry, Electrician, for pausing. I always pause on terrible points. But, I can see the point here for them doing all this testing is to say, okay, how can we make if we're gonna have these... Other people are going to have these eventually. It's only a matter of time. So how can we defend against these kind of thing? Is the logic I would see back then.
Possibly go wrong, right? And the important context here is that it's 1957. The world became aware of nuclear weapons 12 years prior at the end of World War II, and a couple years after that, the US...
I just noticed that safe behind him.
We are well off into the Cold War, and nuclear hysteria is at an all-time...
It's a beefy.
So by this point in time, the American general public doesn't just understand that nuclear weapons make a really big boom, they also, to some degree, also understand radiation and nuclear fallout. So everybody kind of understands what's going on at this point. I mean, they've even got cartoon turtles teaching kids what to do in case a nuclear bomb gets dropped near them. So naturally, when everybody finds out the government is strapping nukes to balloons and blowing them up in the desert, there's quite a bit of concern, you know, like, hey, maybe that's a bad idea. Everybody finds out
maybe
that's actually how the government's planning on protecting them from a nuclear strike from the Soviet Union by taking one of our nukes and blowing up the Soviet nuke in the sky right over everybody's heads. Ladies and gentlemen, the Genie air-to-air missile. Okay, you gotta remember, this is the 1950s. There's no intercontinental ballistic missile that can reach from the Soviet Union into America. So, this means that the only nuclear strike risk really comes from Soviet bombers flying into America and dropping their bombs. So, we gotta be ready to shoot down these planes, right? Obviously. Problem, again, it's the 1950s. There's no sophisticated air systems yet. There's not really any air-to-air missiles.
I was gonna say, it's the 50s. Do they even have air-to-air besides machine guns and maybe some primitive rockets? Because the 50s, as far as I know, was all machine gun and heavy guns comparing to his other video we reacted to, old 666 there.
Missiles that our fighter jets can shoot accurately. So, the going theory...
Oh yeah!
We're gonna use this nuclear
I forgot! Jets were relatively a new thing.
Missile and shoot it at an entire formation of Soviet planes and blow all of them up at once. Genius! Okay, and on a real level, this makes complete sense, right? If you can't be accurate, you increase the margin of error. If you're with shooting a pistol, maybe grab a shotgun, it's easier to hit your target. However, what they went and done with the Genie missile might be a little bit of overkill, because what they've essentially said is, well, I'm not very accurate with air-to-air missiles for shooting down planes, so instead I've opted to create a spawn point for the fucking sun. Everybody's absolutely terrified, and the government's like, guys, calm down. It's going to be completely fine. There's no... You know what? I'll just prove it to you. Give me 5 volunteers and a camera guy, but don't tell him what he's doing. On January 1957, the United States government detonated a Genie air-to-air nuclear missile with a 1.5 kiloton warhead directly above the heads of 5 U.S. service members.
Did they live?
To be there, and a camera guy that was not informed of what he was doing until a couple hours beforehand.
I'm out. You cannot pull out of this. I'm pulling out. What you have to pull out? I'm pulling out. No, you're not. You're leaving it in. You've been out for years, son.
And in your head, you're probably picturing like 5 dudes in hazmat suits with a welding mask on. No, it's literally 5 bros in the standing in the middle of the desert with no glasses.
No way.
Direct eye contact with a nuclear explosion, while one of them is holding a sign that says Ground Zero, Population 5, because that shit's funny.
We felt a heat pulse, a very bright light, a fireball. It is red. The sky looks black about it. It is boiling.
What?
It is rapid. Use this color. There is the ground wave. It is over, folks. It is
I can't.
It's directly above our heads. It went.
Okay, now let's just take a minute and appreciate the fact that you've probably just witnessed the most testicular fortitude ever captured on camera. Secondly, let's also admire the fact that the sign that says Ground Zero Population 5 is not only funny at face value, but it's hilarious that they only counted the 5 of them in the cameraman himself, because even back in 1957, they knew that the cameraman never dies. And out of respect for them being, to the best of my knowledge, the only 6 people that have ever volunteered to have a nuclear warhead dropped directly above their foreheads, I'm going to go ahead and read their names off. The cameraman's name is George Yoshitake, and the 5 service members are as follows: Colonel Sidney Bruce, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Ball, Major John Hughes, Major Norman Bodinger, and Don Luttrell. Apparently the cameraman, Mr. Yoshitake, had filmed a bunch of other nuclear tests in the past, and he thought that this was going to be no different than all the other ones, you know, where he's miles and miles away just filming a mushroom cloud.
Yeah.
He didn't know that they were going to be dropping the bomb directly above him until like a couple hours beforehand, and he was already there. After arriving to the test site, he was briefed on what was going to go down, and according to him, he was pretty much completely unfazed. He did not care at all, and he was 100% game to partake in this experiment, which I think we can all agree is gangster as fuck.
This is what I
He's probably petrified of fear.
fucking gangster.
And then he goes on to live a normal life until he passed away in 2013 at the
Whoa.
age of 84. And the other 5 service members that were also involved in this experiment all lived full, happy lives. As far as I could tell, the youngest any of them passed away was 71, and the rest of them all lived into their 70s.
Wow.
And while it's great that they were all okay, the PR stunt itself wasn't really that effective because the general public wasn't swayed very much by it. They still wanted them to stop blowing up nuclear bombs all the time. So finally, the US government's like, fine, we'll stop blowing up so many bombs in the desert. And the American people are like, and above the desert in the atmosphere. fine, and above the desert,
They know their government.
and in the ocean. Fine.
They know their government.
And that is the story of how nuclear testing finally came to an end. No, I'm just kidding. The government then decided to opt for the loophole, and they were going to bore a 500-foot deep hole in the desert so that they could blow up a nuke underground, because
No one specified under the desert.
nobody would be mad, because people were only mad about on the surface, in the atmosphere, and in the ocean. Surely, blowing one up underground wouldn't be that big of a deal, right? I mean, what could go wrong?
Delete me!
What are you doing? I already did the ad.
Delete me's gonna do every episode from now on.
What?
Yeah,
Wait, how much are they paying?
don't worry about it.
Okay then.
Anyways, you guys know the deal by now. It's pretty straight.
That was weird.
They turn around and they make sure the data brokers on the internet aren't selling your personal information, and after they get it all taken down initially, they continue to monitor it and make sure nobody else starts selling it in the future.
Since this is already a couple minutes in, Delete Me just used that tactic of, we're gonna pay more because you already have the hook. Yeah, I can say Kip Reacts taught me that one. So, yeah.
So if you're interested, I'll have a link and a discount code down below. Let's keep going. I mean, I'm not an overly smart guy or an explosions expert or anything, but I mean, off the top of my head, I've got some concerns. Primarily, I've seen the cinematic masterpiece Armageddon, where people convince me that a bunch of dudes that work on an oil rig are easier to train to be astronauts than teaching astronauts how to drill a fucking hole. I mean, of the movie.
Hold up! I never thought of that! I never thought of that. Oh, it's gonna be easier to train oil riggers to be astronauts than to have astronauts dig a hole. Oh my god. Oh my god.
Stick a nuke down it, blow the planet you're on in half. I understand 500 feet probably isn't deep enough for that to be realistic, but still, nothing good can come of this. You're gonna, like, piss off King Kong or unleash that Balrog thing that killed Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. Something bad is gonna happen. Now, luckily, they're not planning on detonating a nuclear warhead in this hole. They're just planning on blowing one up. And what I mean by that is the premise of this experiment was basically, remember, we're worried about the USSR bringing bombers, planes, and dropping a nuclear bomb on America. And we're planning on shooting those USSR bombers down. Essentially, we're going to blow up those planes that have a nuclear weapon on board. They want to know what happens when you blow up a nuclear weapon with a conventional type bomb or missile, right?
Fair.
So they're going to stick a nuclear warhead in the hole with another bomb, and they're going to blow up the conventional bomb and see if that blows up the nuclear bomb as well, because we need to know that. And the going theory is that the nuke is not going to explode because nuclear bombs are set off in a very particular way, and if they don't get set off in that exact exact way.
what happens. I don't know about this one.
Kill the nuke rather than set it off. But that's all theoretical.
That make a dirty bomb though.
Actually test it, right? You're gonna back up, grab a camera, yell "World Star," and see what happens. So that's exactly what they did. July 26, 1957, they had the first underground nuclear test ever, known as Pascal A. Takes them all day to set it up. They got.
I don't think I know of this one.
They get everything ready. Then on top of the hole, you know, in case the nuclear bomb does go off, they lower a 5-foot thick slab of concrete that weighs thousands and thousands of pounds. And then on top of the hole, they have some kind of lid. I'm not sure what material it was. They didn't say, but sitting on top of the lid, there was a bunch of sensing equipment. Because remember, they're not expecting a big explosion. They're expecting a really small explosion, and they want to get as much data from it as possible. So they have like sensors and cameras aiming down the hole through this. And I will now let the head scientist in charge, Bob Brownlee, take the story from here. And I quote, "They finally got it down the hole, by my recollection, about 10 o'clock at night or so. There wasn't much time to go back to Mercury, go to bed, get up the next morning and shoot it. So somebody said, why don't we just shoot it now and then go in? And it was the world's finest Roman candle, because at night it was all visible. Blue fire shot hundreds of feet into the air. Everybody was down in the area, and then they all jumped up, jumped in their cars, and drove like crazy, not even counting who was there and who came out of the area." So the safety equipment didn't work. The nuclear part went off, generating an explosion about 50,000 times bigger than they were anticipating. Apparently, the
I did not know about this one.
That seismic equipment from all over the world could sense this explosion. You know, seismic equipment being the shit they use to detect earthquakes. Another scientist that was present described it as, and I quote, "the biggest damn Roman..."
Yeah, blue light with nukes. That's ionizing radiation. That's not good. Those guys who took off were like, "Yep, no." But how the hell did it detonate?
Candle you ever saw. It was beautiful. Big blue glow in the sky. And because of this, the United States government comes to the realization, okay, maybe underground nuclear testing isn't that great of it. I'm just fucking with you guys. The exact same experiment like a month later, August 27th, 1957. And they didn't really change a whole lot about the experiment. They took the device, they stuck it down the hole, they put thousands of pounds of concrete directly on top of it, and then the only thing they did change was instead of whatever lid they were using before that they could like put sensors through and shit, they went and tried to control the explosion by getting a 2,000-pound manhole cover, and then they welded it shut over the top of the hole. They took the best high-speed camera they could find and aimed it at the manhole cover, because if the safety device failed again, whatever happens to the manhole cover was, and I quote, "scientifically interesting." They're just doing Mythbusters shit with DOD money. So they the nuclear portion goes off, and in hindsight, what happened is when you have a nuclear bomb go off with thousands of pounds of concrete directly on top of it, that concrete is instantly vaporized and turned into gas, and then that gas is pretty also instantly superheated, and superheated gas expands a lot, and this is an enclosed environment because they welded the manhole cover shut. If you're not picking up what I'm putting down, the scientists just inadvertently turned the planet into a fucking potato gun. This 2,000-pound manhole cover, presumably into outer space. So all the scientists and pros start asking the question that everybody wants the answer to. How
Where does the
fast do
manhole
you think that manhole cover was going? So they go to the high-speed camera. Okay, this camera is taking 1 frame per 1,000th of a second. Okay, it's a lot of fucking pictures. The manhole cover appears in 1 singular frame, and that is it.
So what's the speed ratio?
A single frame and not multiple frames. They can't calculate how far it was traveling over.
Oh my god.
So all they can calculate is the minimum speed that it would have to be going to only be captured by a single frame in the span of the camera shot. And the calculation they came up with was that manhole cover was moving at least 150,000 miles an hour. That is Mach 195. It is 195 times faster than the speed of sound. And the best part about all this is that this happened prior to Sputnik 1.
Hold on.
Was that manhole cover was moving at least 150,000 miles an hour.
Okay, hold that thought. I gotta do a little bit of math here. That's still fucking fast. Never mind.
195. It is 195 times faster than the speed of sound. And
That's-
the best part about
that's-
all this is that this happened prior to Sputnik 1, meaning that it was the first man-made object to ever make it into outer space. Buh! It didn't make it into outer space. It would have burnt up in the atmosphere just like meteorites do. Buh! Oh, shit, you're right. I completely forgot that every single meteorite that's ever come into the Earth's atmosphere is burnt up completely and never actually makes it to the ground. I'll be right back. I've got to go tell all the dinosaurs to stand up and quit being babies, because clearly they're... Guys, they're dead. This completely a meteorite for multiple reasons. For one, a meteorite's never been made out of 2,000 pounds of refined steel. For two, a meteorite's moving at about 30,000 miles an hour when it collides with the Earth's atmosphere. This thing's moving at 150,000 miles an hour, and space is only 62 miles up, okay? This thing made it to outer space in a second. Even was like, what the fuck was that? Thirdly, the collision with the atmosphere is nothing like a meteorite, right? A meteorite is a rock traveling through the vacuum of outer space with no other forces acting upon it, and it
They just fucking made a destructo disc and fired that thing off. I'm sorry, Fat Electrician, I keep pausing at the terriblest times for you.
collides with Earth's atmosphere, and then it gets slowed down and it gets burnt up, okay? The manhole cover isn't just moving at 150,000 miles an hour through the atmosphere. It is being propelled by a channeled nuclear explosion with all of the gases, aka the atmosphere behind it, also moving 150,000 miles an hour in the same...
Oh my god.
Science!
Okay, and just to be clear, I'm not saying that I'm correct. I'm simply saying I'm incredibly ill-equipped to answer this question accurately, and no offense, but there's about a 99.999% chance that you are too. So my verdict in regards to this man
That's
is
fine.
gonna be that it's still up in the air.
I see what you did there.
Bad joke. I'm sorry, moving on. Now, fast forward, nuclear testing continued both underground, above ground, and in the atmosphere until 1963.
Damn.
They signed a treaty with the Soviet Union and Great Britain that the only nuclear testing allowed was going to be underground. Now, fast forward again a couple of decades, and people's concerns over atmospheric nuclear bomb detonations turned out to be 100% legitimate because a ton of people ended up having elevated risks of cancer. Both the 18,000 soldiers that were present at
Damn.
Plumbob had highly elevated likelihoods of developing leukemia and thyroid cancer, as well as thousands of civilians that were living in towns near the test sites. And I know what you're thinking, how come those people got cancer, but the guys that literally stood underneath a nuclear bomb as it was detonated didn't? Well, the way that nuclear radiation works
Fallout?
is that it dissipates pretty quickly over like 2 to 3 days, and then it's completely gone. Which is why like all the old videos and protocols telling you what to do in case of a nuclear attack always told you, you know, duck and cover from the initial blast wave and then make your way inside and stay inside.
Yeah, I can tell. I'm sorry again, Fat Electrician. I always give you terrible frames. From my understanding, the worst thing, the two worst things from a nuclear blast is either the first heat blast from it because it's so fast, and then fallout if there's any. The radiation itself dies off pretty quickly depending on the type of bomb. But hey, I don't know all this stuff. I am just Cat. I play games, and we've listened to a few scientists on here on this thing. So yeah.
For like a week. After that, the radiation is decayed enough that it shouldn't hurt you. So the guys that were exposed to that bomb directly overhead were exposed to it for presumably 10-15 minutes before they dipped and left, whereas a lot of these soldiers were exposed to repeated nuclear explosions.
And that's another thing. Exposure time is your biggest thing with this stuff. That's all I do know.
Over and over again, or these towns, the explosions would go up into the atmosphere and the radiation would be caught in the wind, and it would just carpet these towns with radiation for days over and over and over again over the course of years. Hundreds of nuclear detonations exposing these people to radiation. Now, fast forward like 3 decades to 1990, the United States government, with its infinite charity and outstanding moral compass, finally decides that they're going to pass the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, where they're going to pay these people that were wrongfully exposed to radiation due to their negligence. If you got cancer and you could prove that it was because of them, they would go ahead and they would give you $75,000 in one lump sum if you were a soldier on the ground, or if you were an innocent civilian just living your life in a town miles and miles away, they would give you $50,000. There's no other legal course that you could take. You can't sue them for more. You can't reject it. Just, here's what I'm going to give you. Fuck off.
Take it or leave it.
How about I give you the finger,
Just so we're on the same page with this, the United States government takes your tax money, whether you want them to or not. You don't get an option. They're taking your money, okay? They then turned that money into radiation that they used to poison Americans with and give them cancer.
Oh,
And
no.
30 years after the fact, they decided, you know what, we should make things right by giving the people that survived this long and can actually prove it was our fault, we'll give them like 50 grand. Bear in mind that 50 grand is also money that was tax money.
Jeez.
So they took the money, used it to poison you, and then to pay you off, they gave you some of your money back. Can you understand how absolutely crazy that is? Imagine
Oh my God.
walked up to somebody on the street and was like, hey, give me all the money.
Oh my God, when you put it that way, it's like, holy shit, that is wild. But dang, I did not, okay, I knew about this, you know what, we'll just let him finish. He's only got a couple minutes.
I'm gonna throw you in a cage for years against your will. And you're like, okay, and you give them all the money in your wallet. They turn around, they go buy brass knuckles, come back, and then punch you in the face with the brass knuckles that they just bought with your money. And then they look down at you and they're like, oh, I really hurt you, my bad. And then they get into your pocket, find another $20 bill, pull that $20 bill out of your pocket, and then hand it back to you. Pay you off, punching you in the face.
It's never too early to learn that the government is a greedy piglet that suckles on a taxpayer's teat until they have sore chapped nipples.
I gotta end this video. I feel radicalized. In conclusion, this has been the story of 6 crazy bastards that volunteered to have a nuclear bomb detonated directly above their head, and that time that America may have accidentally launched a manhole cover into outer space, potentially becoming the first man-made object ever, and that time that the US government poisoned tens of thousands of people with radiation, giving them cancer, and basically had no consequences for it whatsoever. Thanks for watching. Best way to support the channel is go buy some merch over at thefatelectrician.com. Quack bang out.
And that's the thing, like, if there's any way to, there's no way to prove that unless they redid that test in modern times with modern high-speed cameras, because I am curious to know if that thing made it to space. Like, there's a good chance it did, even if it was not the whole thing. Also, depending on how it went up, if it was spinning like a coin, part of it may have burned up in the atmosphere, but I think a good majority chunk of it would have made it to space. But that speed, I wonder how fast it got out of our solar system. If it did make it. Because it'd be funny if this thing just ended up on one of the planets in our solar system and it's just a crater. But yeah, I did not know that Operation Plumbob is where it came from. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So that was the Fat Electrician's America's Unhinged Nuclear Testing, aka Operation Plumbob. I know some stuff of some of the nuclear testing, and I can thank the Fallout video games for getting me my interest to see what the hell was going on over there. But yeah. Anyways, that's gonna be it for now. So we will catch you all on the next one. So goodbye for now.